Welcome, everybody. It's great to have you. Just as a reminder, this channel is for educational or perhaps entertainment purposes only, whichever the law would prefer. It's great to have you with us. So today, I want to welcome our good friend Dan back to the channel. He's been through a hell of a last month, let's say, and ended up having a blood test and emergency heart surgery, and want him to be able to come and share his story, his experience, and how he felt at the time with everything that happened. So, Dan, welcome back, brother. It's great to have you. I'm glad you're doing okay.
Yeah. Hello, everybody. Hi, Mark.
Hey.
Can you hear me okay, everybody?
Sound good on my end.
Okay, good. Yeah, I'm here. I'm still on the Earth realm. I made it. Yes. I'm doing much better. It's been a month since the surgery, and I'm making a lot of good progress. So should we start at the very beginning?
Yeah, I think it's awesome. You're making a lot of progress, and yeah, let's start at the very beginning, how everything went down, and yeah, let's hear it all. Whatever you're okay with sharing.
Yeah, thanks. So as you know, and as some other people may have heard from because my streaming or my podcasts have been quite sparse in the last many months, and that is because I have not been feeling well, but I was having a hard time, or my health practitioner was having a hard time figuring out what was wrong with me. And that's because heart problems, especially in somebody like me, I have no family history of it. I don't have any other problems that would contribute to heart problems. So I don't do anything that the medical community thinks would contribute to it. So I don't have high cholesterol. I don't have any blockages. I didn't have any blood clots. I didn't take anything that could affect it, if you know what I mean.
You know what I'm saying? Sure, yes. Yeah. Wink, wink.
Yeah, right. So I did none of those things, but I was having extreme, and it was getting worse and worse. It was felt like I couldn't walk across the room without running out of breath. I couldn't bend over, without running out of breath. If I needed to pick something up, I could barely walk across a short distance, and my heart was racing in the last couple of months, over 100 beats. My pulse rate was over 100, like 110. That was constant. And then my blood pressure was climbing out of control. Before that happened, they were an x-ray showed like fluid on my lungs. And so I was misdiagnosed with pneumonia. Turns out that was maybe 6 months ago. So my heart was failing for a while. And this may have been a defect that could have gone back from birth. One of the valves was failing to the point where it completely failed. So so basically I was living with half a heart functioning. And I could have turned off like a switch at any time, but thank goodness the person I go to for healthcare, she's very good, and she had me take a blood test, which included a heart panel, even though she said, I don't understand what's wrong with you. You don't have anything that would contribute to this, but we should check it out anyway. So 24 hours later, I get a phone call, and she says, you got to get to the ER. Looks like your blood test is showing. And I didn't even know they could determine this with blood tests, but apparently there's 2 panels they can run.
That's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, they can look for certain enzymes or something. And she said, it looks like you're in heart failure, and you got to get to the ER. And I called ahead and just go to the hospital, and so I had to drive a little distance, because where I am isn't close to like a major hospital. So Then I went to the ER. They were expecting me, and they started running more tests. So I had 2 blood tests, a CAT scan, X-ray, 2 X-rays, and an EKG, and they may have had some other tests. I don't know. They were bombarding me with tests, and then after a few hours, they had me take nitro pills. And then the doctor came out over and he said, we have to transport you to the cardiac unit because you are in heart failure. So they told me that, one of my valves had basically blown apart in my heart and had failed, basically. So
and you were out in the hallway too till
yes.
I don't know, when I saw you, you were there till you told me you were going to be there till 3, and I don't think you got to the other hospital till 5.
Yeah, it was 4 or 5 in the morning that they moved me by ambulance to another hospital. And I really appreciate you, coming over there.
Of course,
and
man, of course.
My family was with me, and then and my body was completely out of whack. So they gave me to the cardiac unit, and they stabilized me with a bunch of different medications. Basically I was swallowing. They would give me like a little paper cup, and it had like, I don't know, 5, 6, maybe 8 or 9 pills in there. I would swallow them, and that was stabilizing my pulse rate, my heart rate, my blood pressure, and then they ran even more tests, because then they had to take like a bunch of different tests. One was absolutely horribly painful. I guess it was their test to look for blockages or something. That was unbelievable. They insert like a probe into your wrist, and you have to be awake for this. And they give you like a sedative and a local, but believe me, it feels like a sword is going into your arm.
Oh God.
And because they have to do all this stuff to see what kind of surgery they can do to you. Are they going to pry your chest apart and go right to your heart, or are they going to do this other thing where they kind of pry your ribs open and then they insert from the side? Turns out I was eligible for what they call minimally invasive.
yeah, minimally invasive.
Yeah, but they stress that even though that's better for you, the pain after surgery is actually worse than the open heart surgery.
Yeah, that's what the nurse said when you came out of there, and I was like, oh, really? So literally splitting your chest in half is less painful, more invasive, but less painful than going in through the ribs.
Yes, it was, but it does heal faster. So you go through a lot of the pain. Of course, it was a lot to take in. So I was in the hospital.
Well, less chance of an infection too.
Yeah.
I mean, if they split your chest open, the chance of you probably getting some sort of co-infection in that area is a lot higher, which that alone makes it worth going in the ribs if you can.
Yeah. I mean, it was much better that way. No scarring,
Yeah.
But I mean, the left side of the right side of my body, because they go in from the right side of your body, which I didn't understand why, but that's where they go, and then they get to your heart from that side. I don't know how they do that, but anyway, it was quite the ordeal, because after the surgery, first of all, I was in the hospital for most of the entire month of December. I spent, they wouldn't let me. Obviously, you can't leave. You can't even get out of the bed because the alarm go off, and they want to escort you to the bathroom. They want to measure how much you're peeing. It was unbelievable. But after the surgery was over, I was in the ICU for 2 or 3 days. I think it was 3 days, and I was in a room with no windows. I was very confused as to what time of day or night it was. They had a little hand control for me, and I could keep pushing the button, and it would maximize the painkillers it was giving me because they had to insert a pump in my leg after the surgery because my heart was repaired, but it wasn't functioning. It took a while for it to regain its
Rhythm, I guess.
rhythm, its ability to function independently. And so they told me, and if you could imagine this is, I'm having like a flashback now of how. So for 3 days, I had to lay on my back. I couldn't move. And you can't get up more than 15 degrees because the pump they have in your leg could potentially kill you if you move it out of place. And the pump there is inserted in the artery, and it keeps working with the heart to try to alleviate the heart's need to work that hard. I guess
Makes sense. Yeah, your heart's got to get back in the swing of things, I guess. So it's like kind of playing second fiddle while your body figures it out.
Right. I was nauseous. They were giving me medicine for that one time. And if you could imagine this, I threw up, and you're laying flat and you can't get up. You have to look at the ceiling.
Oh yeah, because you can't. You can only go up so far.
Right. So if you can imagine, it was something else. So anyway, then they moved me back to the cardiac wing after 3 days, and then I was in there for, I don't know, was it a week and a half?
Yeah, it sounds about right. Yeah, I think it was like about 10 days.
Yeah. So and I had a really good surgeon. The guy was real, mastercraft at this stuff, this type of surgery. And so my valve was repaired. I didn't need a replacement, thank God, because if you get a replacement, they want to know, because they can't repair it. They need to know what you want. So there's a biological replacement that's usually made from pig or cow material, or there is a mechanical replacement, which sounds cool, but in fact it is not, because the current technology requires you to be on Coumadin for the rest of your life. Otherwise, the mechanical valve will get gummed up and then it will stop working. So I picked the biological if they needed to do anything, but luckily, the doctor managed to repair my valve. And so I do have like some kind of like metallic or metal ring in there. I have a card they gave me to notify anybody doing an x-ray or a CAT scan or MRI that it's safe to give me an MRI with this. It's non-magnetic. And it has like, it's kind of holding the valve together like some kind of ring, and then they actually sew it back together. It's crazy. So anyway, because the valve was repaired, it could potentially last for the rest of my life with no issues. So that's the good news.
That's great.
And I've been making steady progress. At first, I could only walk like a minute, 2 minutes. The nurses were kind of impressed. I never needed a walker. I never had dizzy spells or lack of balance. So I was doing good. I was
you were
like
a warrior.
That's what some people told me, but
kept telling you, man, you were a warrior throughout the whole damn thing, man.
It was
impressive. It was impressive.
It was quite the experience. So I actually lost. I had all this water weight when I came home. When I came home from the hospital, I weighed over 200 pounds, and that was from water weight, water retention, and my heart wasn't. I'll find out soon enough, as I have some doctor visits coming up. But when they sent me home, my heart was not functioning in normal range. So I have to wear a defibrillator vest, which monitors everything. And then if it senses, it's like an insurance policy. So it saves my life in case my heart were to stop. But I really think that it has gone back to normal levels. So I went from over 200 pounds down to this morning I was at 167 pounds, just to give you an idea how much water weight I had on me.
Crazy. And you had, I remember the day you were going in for the procedure, you were retaining a ton of water. And then you came out and it was like still, it was almost like it was getting worse. And then it hung on and I was like, ooh, I hope it's going to get past, because I know they were giving you the, I forgot what the water retention pills. What's the name of it again? The ones that they were giving you?
The LASIK and
Lasix, yeah.
Spirulactu or something like that. They give you the second one because it also has potassium, because diuretics make you lose potassium, and then you get cramps and all this other stuff. So.
Yeah, it's yeah, man. It's the picture I saw of you, not that long ago. It you looked great. Like it all shedded.
Yep, it's they in the last couple of days, like was it yesterday or day before yesterday, they had reassessed me. I went in for a visit and they reassessed everything, and right away they said you can drive again. You may be able to go back to work in February. You can stop with the fluid restrictions, because you're limited when you're trying to lose the water retention. They limit you to under 40 ounces of fluid per day. So that is like literally 2 of those little water bottles. That would make like 30. Each one of those is like, 2 of those is like 34.
That's just
and then they,
pathetic.
And then they count any other liquid. So if you have ice cream, that counts as because if it's at room temperature, if it's a liquid, then it's you're taking liquid. So they now when I finally got the water fluid restrictions removed, I was so happy. And then I could drive again. I'm able to walk now. I'm getting my strength back. And I feel much better. My blood pressure is normal. My pulse rate is normal. They're going to find out soon enough whether or not my heart is working in normal range. But I feel like it is. I feel good. What was the thing? So a couple of things that connect directly to the Overwatch project and everything we do here. This was a real life test on whether or not I had any subconscious baggage, because this is it, man. I was in the hospital. I was like, I don't know if I'm going to make it. Like, this could be it. This is that serious. I didn't even know if I was going to survive.
Yeah.
My ride to the hospital.
Yeah, that was intense time.
Right.
And then I don't think we talked about like how far away from home you were when you got that news. You don't have to go into detail, but the fact that you were kind of far.
I had to drive an hour and a half to get to the hospital.
You get told about it on the phone, like while you're at work.
Right. They told me, don't panic. The health practitioner, she called me. She says, I don't want you to freak out. I don't want you to panic, because that's just going to make everything worse. But I got to tell you, it looks like you're in heart failure. You need to get to the ER. I've called ahead. They're expecting you. Just drive yourself right to the hospital. So, and I called my family. I told them what was happening. People were ready to meet me there. It was, so that's basically the gist of the whole physical thing. But there's also other things that happened. So the interesting thing was that, I always wondered because you never know, right? Did I really purge all of this subconscious trash that I had with me from all the religious schooling, and am I really mentally free? Because the real test comes down to when you really think this is it, when you really believe that, or there's a really good potential that you could be checking out of the earth realm here.
Yeah.
And somebody comes up to you, like the nurse at the ER, after I was there for several hours. They, they came up to me and asked me if I wanted a. Now, first thing when I checked in, they said, "Do you have a religious preference?" I said, "No." I said, "No, I don't." Right? Because I'm totally free of that garbage, right? So then later, I mean, this is the point where, like, some people may, live their lives in what a certain way, but then when they think they're going to die, suddenly they run back to whatever religion. The couple hours after the nurse comes up to me, she goes, did you want a priest? And I didn't even hesitate. I just said, no, absolutely not. No. And that's when I knew, oh, you know what? All these years I've spent studying this stuff, the afterlife, what happens after you die, the reincarnation, soul trap, all this stuff. And I realized at that moment that I know what I know, and I don't have any crutches or things that I'm going to fall back on. I really, really understand and believe what I'm saying, and I know it. So it's instantaneous. No, of course I don't want a priest. Why would I want a priest?
Yeah, no, and I found it interesting. I remember, I think we had talked, it was when you gotten the phone call, I'm almost sure, like you had called, I had missed it. I called you back when you were driving back initially after hearing the news, and you were like, Mark, like I realized in that moment that, I was perfectly content with whatever was going to happen. Like you said it's like, and then later on you even said, like, it's almost like it was a test run, like to like challenge or test your fortitude or inner knowing, I guess you can say, however you want to phrase it.
Exactly. Yes. It was like, I'm not going to fall back just because I think I may die here. I'm not going to fall back to this garbage these belief systems they want to program me. I don't believe in any of that garbage anymore. I am really honestly free of it. So, I was ready to also face whatever beings I was going to encounter in the afterlife, and none of them were going to get anything over on me. I was ready to, challenge them or dispatch them or whatever.
Right.
So then the other big thing is, for years I've tried to get out of body. I've tried meditation. I've tried all kinds of things, but I never really had any experience like a Robert Monroe experience where you're floating around your neighborhood, or I've never been able to accomplish that. But finally, so I go in for the surgery, which is unbelievably, like, it's scary. It's cold. You can't help but feel cold. They give you these warm blankets. It's just, you can't do anything. They have you hooked up to so many IVs, and then they kind of like pick you up, and like with a blanket or whatever, they kind of pick you up and they kind of usher you onto the OR bed. And the nurse is there, but it was real nice. But it's also like a humiliating experience. And all this stuff is humiliating.
Sure, of course. Yeah.
But I understand. I mean, the human body is basically just the machine that houses our consciousness while we're plugged into the earth reality here. And of course, if it shuts, when things get messed up like this, things can happen. So,
well, the other beauty of it is, it's like there are so many good nurses, there are so many good doctors. I mean, the staff at that hospital, like we were talking about, like literally everyone I have ever known who went to that hospital had nothing but positive things to say. I swear, I don't think there's one person I spoke to who ever had a negative thing to say about it. And even just seeing how they treated you, they were awesome. And the humiliation part goes to kind of what you were mentioning, how we're, look, the body breaks down, it's defective, but there are those good individuals out there who truly have compassion and empathy for other human beings, and it's like just embedded in them to do it as a service or a job. And boy, did we see that with the group that was taking care of you, man. I mean, it was so, yeah, it's humiliating, but at the same time, all of us at some point will require probably some sort of service like that. You know?
That's true. It's true. Yeah. Everybody was amazingly compassionate and comforting and amazingly good.
You even had a butler serving your food.
He really did. Yeah. I have to say this: even the food was okay. Right? I know it's weird, but the food was fine. I mean, I would get to order meals while I was in recovery, and they were controlling what I was eating. They had me limited on carbs, and they had me limited on obviously sodium. But I get to eat like grilled salmon, whole brown rice, corn or peas or vegetables. Sometimes they bring me a little dessert even. It was crazy.
I remember you calling me and telling me like the list of foods you're eating. I was like, damn, man, what the hell are you at a 5-star restaurant over there? This guy's eating salmon and pot roast and pancakes and everything.
Yeah.
I mean, Christ, I'm like, damn, bro.
Yeah.
What you got going on over there?
It's crazy. So when I went to the OR for the surgery, though, this is when the OBE, I guess you call it OBE. Could have been an NDE. I don't know. As far as I know,
probably say an OBE.
Yeah, I would say an OBE. Yeah. So not really an NDE because they never declared me. But I think they have to stop shit to fix.
Did you ever ask your doctor?
I never asked. No.
Yeah, next time you see him, ask. Yeah.
I'm going to ask next time I see him. Yeah. But anyway, so they start by telling you that they're going to put you under, and whatever they give you, the anesthesia got a woman. She was very nice, and she said, soon you're going to feel a little drowsy, and then for you it's going to be, because it was like 4 or 5 hours, right? My surgery was
yeah.
4 or 5 hours of surgery. But she said, for you, it'll be a moment. You're just going to close your eyes and then you'll wake up and it'll be all over. So they put me under, and 2 things happened. I actually didn't. I kind of remembered the second thing, but it was like more of a subdued memory. The first thing was very clear to me. So the first thing is I found myself in this infinite, I guess you could describe it as, the only way I could describe it is this infinite orange grove. With all these orange trees going in straight lines, and the sky was brilliant, bright, white, and the ground had no grass. It was just like this very clean looking dirt. It was like, I would describe it as if you ever like opened a powdered chocolate to make like chocolate milk, that clean, even color, like layer, and with all these trees with these perfect oranges, and I was sort of like not really walking, but more like floating, and I was absolutely undisturbed. There was no one, no being there bothering me or talking to me or nothing. I was just pleasantly alone. And then I remember that thing people describe where you ask a question and you get an answer instantaneously. Like I had a sense that I knew everything but the memory of whatever I knew just can't be put back into the human. When you get back into the human brain, that goes away. I do
Access
remember.
denied.
Yeah, access denied, right? So whatever it was, I mean, it was comfortable. It was pleasant. It wasn't. But I noticed, one of the things I noticed is there was nobody there to interfere with me, and I honestly believe it's because they didn't want to interfere with me.
Yeah. And your resolve too is so strong. It's nothing is gonna even go there. And see do you remember what drug what was it, propofol that they put you under?
Yeah, I believe it was propofol.
Okay.
Yeah. So then the second thing is that I do have a memory. So during the operation, I have a memory of becoming conscious or becoming present in the OR while they were working on me. And the doctors and the nurses having a discussion about should we do this or should we do that? And I don't remember. I do remember what they were talking about. It was kind of personal, so I don't want to say it here. But if I ever have one of them confirm that they had this discussion, then that would verify that I was in the OR conscious while my body was unconscious. I had a sense that I was floating very close to my body, like hovering right near it. But
I would talk to the doctors as soon as possible.
Yeah, I'm going to see them again soon.
Just because they might not remember, like the longer that goes by. Yeah, I would try to, not like you really need the confirmation, but it'd be interesting, I guess.
Yeah, yes. So
I'm sorry, go ahead, man.
No, yeah. So these two things happened. The Orange Grove, which seemed to go, and that's something I've never visited. I know I live in the South here, but I've never gone to I've seen, when you're exiting Florida, you go by like those orange stands, but I've never actually gone to some place where they farm oranges.
A field, yeah.
Yeah, I've never personally. There was I don't know where that came from. Did I generate it? I don't know what was going on there, but I do.
Do you
know
like oranges?
I do. I do like oranges.
Okay.
So and the sky, they'll bring like this pure white, like it wasn't like a blue sky. It was like very white, very bright. But the light didn't bother me. I'm sure you can relate to all the NDEs and OBEs that you've reviewed over the years. These symptoms probably, these accounts probably sound familiar.
Yeah, right? they mimic across not just NDEs, but OBEs, breakthrough trips. I mean, tons, all different ones.
Yeah, I do remember like almost as if I want to say generated, but projected myself as if I had a foot and to touch the dirt for a moment, just to feel it.
Oh, okay. Were you moving around a lot or more or less stationary?
I was moving, but very slowly. Like I was just kind of drifting. And then if I wanted to feel like I was walking, I would be able to create that feeling.
Sure.
But that's because I desired it, not because I had to do it that way. Does that make sense?
Sure.
And then I don't know. It seemed like me becoming aware in the OR happened after that. It seemed like first there was I was in the orange thing. Then I got, I guess, pulled back to my body, and then I remembered the nurses and doctors chatting, and me kind of like, I don't know. I mean, I'm not supposed to be aware of anything during that part of the procedure. So the fact that I became aware of you know, what was going on in the OR. Even though that's more of a clouded memory, it's less. The Orange Grove thing is just there. It's just like I was there, and then the other one is like a little bit more subdued. Like I remembered it, but it was almost like I wasn't supposed to remember it or something, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But then that was the kind of like the thing that really blew me away was, and I really spent a lot of time thinking about that Orange Grove. And to me, it was always like the main thing was that absolutely nothing bothered me at all, and it seemed like that nothing could bother me.
Love it. Yeah, I mean, because there's like zero interaction. You said not like no
Zero.
nothing.
Nothing. I don't know if I created the Orange Grove or if it's just someplace on the astral plane or beyond.
I'm
Uh,
wondering. I'm wondering. It's tough to say because based on like if you had said, oh yeah, I love orange groves and I used to I go there and pick oranges once in a while, something like if there was some sort of maybe like further connection to you besides just liking oranges, then I'd probably be more inclined to think that. But it's tough to say. It's I don't know.
my
I really don't know.
my my relationship with oranges is a funny one because while I do love to eat an orange, I hate to peel an orange.
They're a pain in the
There was
ass.
no. It's not like something I think about. It's more like something that once in a while, oh, I'll want an orange. It's not like it's my favorite fruit or thing to have. There was no reason. I don't know where that came from. I don't. It just was there. I was there, and it was there. So, and then so that's basically the whole. That's basically the entire thing, right there. What happened to me? So,
And then I don't think we covered what you were seeing in the days following the surgery.
oh yeah,
You
yeah,
know
yeah,
the yeah
yeah. Shadow things.
yeah.
After the surgery was over, after I had been to this astral orange plane or wherever it was, and the OR OBE, when I was in after I got out of ICU, this would be like after 3 days. Surgery happened, and I was in ICU. Well, even in the ICU, I think I remember seeing like shadowy cat like strolling across the near the ceiling.
Oh, you definitely were
Little
seeing them because I was there. You were telling me you
little.
were seeing them.
Oh yeah, and when I get to
Yeah,
the room, I
yeah.
was sick for several days after I got back out of the ICU. When I was back in the room, little like actually in the background of the video here, you can see those little stars or white dots moving around.
Hmm.
So I kind of saw that, like little sparkly lights that would just kind of drift around,
Yeah, I
and
think
then I
orbs. Yeah, we were. Yeah, you were definitely
yeah,
seeing some sort of orbs.
and I was seeing like in the corner of my eye, like shadow. I would look, there'd be nothing there, but I did see like quite a few times where it would be like a shadow cat, like a uh, and I like cats. I like dogs. I'm big. I love animals. So it was none of this stuff was scary. It was kind of like funny or interesting, but not scary at all. Even the shadowy things, they were like just like little shadows. It wasn't like anything that would frighten me or anything.
Hmm.
And then of course the cats, which I've seen a lot of cats for some reason.
Yeah, I remember. I don't think it was the day after, or the day after your surgery, I think, and you were in the ER. You were telling me that you were seeing cats like above like the entrance slash exit to your room, and they kept crawling like above the door, and you're like, oh, they're
Yeah,
nice, they're
yeah,
cute.
yep,
Yeah.
yep. Yeah, it was. So that's pretty much. Now I think we've covered everything. That's pretty
Yeah.
much the whole event. Now I have to thank a lot of people. As you know, I put a buy me a coffee button on my website, and I've been putting it in my YouTube channels. And nobody has to feel obligated to donate anything. I just put it there in case because things are tight with inflation. So, and I don't expect anybody to do anything because everybody's got their own problems. So, but I had some very generous donations, and I can't thank those people enough. I mean, it's not it's nothing I can it's not it's just it was just really nice. It's just a little gesture that people do
Yeah.
that I mean, I've done it for other people when I can, and thank you, Mark, for your uh, gift as well.
Sure, sure, no problem, man. Dude, you
Um,
helped me so much, man. You were a big part of my journey. I can't thank you enough.
I really appreciate that. I didn't know it'd be affecting people. I honestly didn't really, honestly, when I started this whole thing, I think nobody's gonna believe that this is reincarnation soul trap and the real goal of life is to escape it. Nobody's gonna buy this, even though I spent like decades thinking about this stuff. I was like, man, but it turns out that there is a small community out there that does understand this problem that we humans have, uh, and are well, we're conscious beings in human form. We're not human, but as long as we are here in human form, we are you know limited, and we have a lot of problems to deal with, and one of them is what happens after we die. So everybody eventually will. I mean, all I've done is postpone it to a later date.
Pretty much. Yeah. Yeah.
um,
You
some
want to
people.
talk about like I see, like, I know, like, you got a family, you got children, so that obviously plays a big role in your decision,
Yes,
with
my
to move
decision.
forward with
Yes, my
that.
decision to want to hold on to not leave yet was because it was going to affect other people, and
Hmm.
obviously, if I was completely alone, then I think my mindset was not yet,
Hmm.
not yet. I need, there are people I'm caring for, and I need to be here for them.
Sure,
So not yet,
sure.
not yet. You know,
Understandable, understandable.
yeah. So
Yeah. Well, I'm really, really happy that you made it through it. And yeah, I mean, I think you basically put up the non-interference, man, as a bit of Venom's saying there. I mean, I think that your intention was like unrelenting, and it kind of played itself out, even though you had the aspect involving propofol and all that stuff, like, but you still you did your own thing, and I think that kind of the surroundings are interesting and a little perplexing as far
yeah,
as that goes, but it's interesting. But I think what it just kind of further proves, at least to me, in my opinion, is that we're like the drug aspect to things when we die. Really is something that needs to be considered more and more, like as a um, I just don't suggest it, like,
it's
on the
true.
way out, because I just feel like we're just too susceptible. And it's
Well,
not like you had a negative experience, right? Like, it
no,
was fine, but the point is,
but
the clarity, the lucidity issue is where I come at all of this when it relates to
yes,
drugs and the after and dying.
Yes, if I was more alert, lucid, I would have had probably a much more. It's just like the a lot of NDEs, right? If you see these people that have these totally lucid NDEs, why? Because they're in a car collision, and their body is in
Yeah.
immediate pain and shock, and then they get projected right out of their body. They have a heart attack, or they get electrocuted, or they're drowning and they're fighting for whatever it is. And during that totally lucid and painful exit, they come out of there, boom, they are wide awake. And then
Yeah.
you have people that get put under these drugs, and like I said, like in my experience, I think I would have had a much grander experience if I wasn't, because you are anchored to the body until it's like interchanging, like your consciousness and the human body are kind of like linked until the very end. So
Mm.
if your body isn't lucid, then your consciousness may not be lucid.
And the other thing is the the cord, right? I mean, we hear over and over and over about the cord. And I
Yeah.
think just like the date we come here, the date we leave here, it's predestined. There's certain things that may play a different role, like others' free will intruding on your free will, like in a violent manner or something like that. But then we can kind of extend on that and talk about life scripts and how someone could have, a messed up life script and their life script can interfere with your life script. I mean, it's really like how crazy how deep this can all go, and we can talk till the cows come home. But I think in the end, your birthday and your death day are probably etched in stone. I'm like pretty certain about that. There's some slight deviations there, and where others can kind of intrude off script and potentially cause your death or cause your own death. But overall, I think a lot of it's pretty well orchestrated. What do you think
Yeah,
about that?
yeah, yeah. This is to me. This is a very as a gamer, I see a lot of game like qualities about the Earth life experience. It seems to me like it's rigged like a video game.
Mm-hmm.
You have an entry point. Your avatar gets, I think, programmed from your birth date and time and place with some base programming. Um, Anybody who plays like Skyrim, for example,
One of the
like
best
when you,
games ever.
yeah. So when you create your avatar, you're giving it traits, you're picking out all this stuff. You're doing that. But when you're born here in the Earth reality, you are imprinted. I think that's where astrology comes from, and I think the more correct one is the Eastern one. The Vedic astrology is more accurate than the
Agree.
Western one.
100%.
And it just able to what astrology does is doesn't it all it does is reveal the code that creates like your base, like your avatar's base traits. And this, of course, can sabotage you, right? So the thing is that, it kind of like it can harm you. In my case, it helped me because when I had a Vedic astrologer look at my chart, she didn't know me. I think I mentioned this before. She didn't know anything about
Yeah.
me. Um, the first thing she said, she punched in my date of birth, my time of birth, and my location of birth. And the first thing that she says was, she just looks at the chart. I mean, I watched what she did on her laptop, and it looked like all gibberish to me, like some kind of astronomy thing. But she's like looking at where the stars were and everything, and what was going on in the solar system. And then she said, "Well, first thing she says is you would definitely do well in some type of field where you are like a detective or something."
Wow. Wow.
No, she had no idea what I used to do for a living, where I worked, or what my involvement, how I process information. Nothing. She knew nothing about me. Um, so she said, because of this and this, you're definitely more inclined to want to resolve mysteries. You don't like puzzles. You need to know answers to big questions. Um, and that is me. She nailed it, right?
Yep.
As a matter of fact, on my website, on overwatchproject.com, I have a page called, let me make sure it's the right one, Skeptology. On the bottom of that page, there's an embedded YouTube video called Full Version Skeptic Michael Shermer versus Jeffrey Armstrong, Vedic Astrologer. Now, this is the problem with like cognitive dissonance. Okay, this Michael Shermer dude, I don't even know why they broadcast this. This shows that Vedic astrology totally works, and he puts this Vedic astrologer through all these hoops and all this stuff to try to prove that astrology is just BS. And Shermer ends up proving that it isn't. But in the end, he still thinks it is. That's, the cognitive dissonance.
Cognitive dissonance, yeah.
But if anybody watches that video under skeptology, you'll see just how effective you have to get the right person. You have to have the right Vedic astrologer that actually knows what you're doing. But when you're giving them the accurate information, they're going to come back with. I think what astrology does is it shows you what your avatar's based programming is. It's not some kind of magical future predictor thing. It's just reading what these base traits are. So if you are born with higher emotional traits, and then you're going to process things more emotionally than logically. You can overcome this stuff when you become aware of it. You may want to overcome certain things. You may want to hack your programming you can't do that in Skyrim, but you can do it as a human. Your consciousness is more powerful than the human avatar, and you can probably break a lot of this stuff and override it.
I think I'm convinced that that's something that most of us do by building self-awareness about who and what we are as individuals, or in the bigger picture of things, opening your minds up to anything and everything, and then of course fine-tuning discernment, dropping cognitive dissonance, going to what you're talking about with Vedic astrology, and on and on and on. All those things play a major role, and in being aware that life scripts are an actual thing. I think once there is that awareness, which a lot of people don't even know, then the amount of power that's just with that knowledge alone is massive. I've felt that just through a number of years, like a personal transformation, just due to awareness and saying, oh, how am I going to react? What am I going to do? How am I going to move forward in this situation if this is thrown at me or that's thrown at me? I'm not perfect, but and some things will still trigger me. There's no doubt about it. But at the same time, I think being able to have that awareness and work with it, and also kind of throw it out of your existence and saying, I'm not going to go along with that ride anymore because of that awareness. There's a lot of power in that. Now, what anyone thinks of that, I don't know, but I found it works for me.
Sure. Let me tell you, the first time I became aware of just what a mind virus cognitive dissonance was. I've mentioned it in previous podcasts, but let me just give everybody a quick recap.
Sure.
When I started Overwatch Project, I was heavily brainwashed. I went through Catholic school from kindergarten to the end of high school. I had been extremely brainwashed on like a cult level, right? Now there was a lot of resistance. I didn't give into the brainwashing, but it had affected me in ways that I had no idea. So when I started researching the afterlife, what happens, I did start processing things through like this like Christian Catholic lens.
Well, some of it's set up that way though too.
Right. And because of the fear factor that these religions put in people, like if you do this, you burn in hell for eternity. It gets into the subconscious, and the subconscious mind is reacting to it no differently than it would react to if you ever like burned your hand near a stove or something. Your subconscious is going to make you avoid that. Yep. It's going to be like a reflex reaction. So I knew something was wrong, but I couldn't figure out what it was. And so I went into that whole in-depth thing where I decided, well, I really should read the entire Bible cover to cover, because, how am I supposed to know what's true and not true if I'm leaning into this religion? I need to figure out So I read the entire book cover to cover, started looking at the footnotes, but there was something wrong. I wasn't able to bring it to the consciousness at first. And I had really forgotten about the concept of cognitive dissonance. It wasn't even something I was aware of, but some things just weren't right. They weren't sitting with me right, but it was like the second time or the third time I read like different versions of the Bible to try to make sense of it, because there was something just not quite right. And at some point I remembered cognitive dissonance, and then I realized that I wasn't even reading like the words on the page. Like somehow my brain was interfering with my consciousness to such a level where when I would read something incredibly disturbing and immoral in the Bible committed by the Yahweh, my brain was filtering that out. I wasn't processing what was written on the page as words. That is incredible to me. That was incredible. I realized that was happening.
Cognitive dissonance at its finest.
Yeah. So your brain will literally alter your perception of reality if you have like a pre-programmed premise. Really kind of like a computer, right?
100%.
Right. So if it's like, if the programming, like this is true, then anything that contradicts this is false. Basically that's cognitive dissonance in a shell. You've been programmed, this is true. Now this may not be true, but your brain will filter out anything that contradicts that as false. And it does it in like a very subtle, underhanded way where you're not even realizing, unless you're aware of cognitive dissonance and how it works, unless you make yourself aware of it, you don't even realize that mind virus has just completely deleted something from your perception, and that you are going on about life with this corrupted view of everything. So
no, it's it just, to me, like learning human psychology, learning how we can be easily brainwashed, how we are easily brainwashed, just again compounds the evidence in support that this whole thing is one big fat deception. That's just one thing, right? Everything. Just think about what Dan just said, everybody, about how he was reading the Old Testament, right? I assume
it's actually in both. It's
Okay.
actually, I
Or
mean, people have this. And when you bring people to the, like the horse to water, you can't make the horse drink. The they always fall back. I don't want to get, I don't want to piss off people that are stuck in these religions. Because
most people watching this channel aren't, so, or your channel. I would imagine so. I don't think you're really
but
gonna get too many mad.
okay,
So
but you
just
can
go
basically
for it.
they always this is like the stages of it. First, you kind of like have to like when you okay like here's why I'm just pulling this off the top of my head. I mean, just out of the blue. So, in the book of Exodus, um, in which there's no actual archaeological evidence that this whole Moses thing ever actually happened. There's zero evidence of it, and there's a lot of logistical issues with the claims in the book also. But besides that, in the book of Exodus, there is a clear, and it doesn't matter which Bible you're reading this from. I mean, some Bibles make it more clear because they have like the English Standard Version, which doesn't have all that old King James language that nobody can understand nowadays anyway. Um, but in the book of Exodus, there's a very clear point that, I'm kind of going to paraphrase here, but essentially there's a point where the Pharaoh is going to relent. He's had enough. He's had enough, and his people have had enough of the torture and all these plagues that have been unleashed in Egypt. And according to the story, and what the Bible makes absolutely crystal clear when you read what it actually says, instead of processing it and kind of like
In
somehow
quotes and just like one little 2-line quotes.
no, it's a whole story thing, but basically,
Well, I'm talking
the
about how
Pharaoh.
most people perceive it. It's like
Oh yeah, yeah.
most people do not read the Bible front to cover, and they'll
No,
just peddle off these quotes that they've been crammed down their throat since birth,
yeah,
or at church or at Sunday school or whatever the case may be, and then like, but what it does is it excuses away all the other horrific shit.
right, right.
Yeah.
So it was crystal clear in there when I finally read it without cognitive dissonance that it was saying that, yeah, Yahweh was going to have that. See, he needed to kill all these babies. So he hardened Pharaoh's heart. He made Pharaoh, he influenced him or projected his power onto him to make him stubborn so that he would not relent, so that God could continue the killing and the slaughter and the mayhem and the torture. Now, I don't give a shit what if you have any sense of morals, actual good versus evil, you're going to read that and say that's fucking evil.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
That's
Exactly.
that is just
Common
evil,
sense doesn't take much to get there.
right? Um, Also, they have the another crazy one. And a lot of Christians, when I tell them this, they have no idea what I'm talking about. They have the whole end book, the book of Revelation. Okay, it's the last book of the New Testament, and it's the last book in the Bible. This book is a horror show of massive
Yeah.
genocide where
Yeah.
billions of people are going to be slaughtered, and the survivors that are chosen, the chosen ones, literally go live in a 1,400-mile cube above the earth.
Exactly. Yep.
Like literally like the Borg, right?
Yep.
It's this and the way it describes like human behavior in this so-called heaven is very like not pleasant. It's boring. There's no like life to it. It's just amazing. But most people don't even know. There was even a YouTuber I found during this research phase of mine where he knows this Christian YouTuber. He knew this, and he actually made like a model of the cube, and he hung it over the globe. And he was saying, "Isn't this great? This is where we're all end up." I'm like, "Wow, that is cognitive dissonance right there."
At its finest. Yeah, I mean, and when you read that, And then you think about how the cube symbolism is so pervasive throughout society. I mean, it's on steroids. It's everywhere. It's implemented, exactly. The Saturn cube, as Bit of Venom says. I mean, it really, the whole thing with flat Earth versus round Earth or the spinning ball, whatever the case may be. I think there is something to. I mean, look, I'm not making any fucking claims like I have any idea what shape the Earth is, like, at all. All I'm saying is I think both are probably wrong. I think we're in some sort of holographic illusion, and I think it's made up of some sort of cube structure. I really do. I mean, I think esoterically that's where it seems to point. Whether that's true or not, I don't know, and I really don't care. I just don't care. But it's like, whatever it is, it is. I mean, I don't think we're on a spinning ball. I don't think we're flinging in space at however many thousand miles per hour. But I also don't think necessarily flat Earth is right, because really, when you boil it down, it's like we're all having this illusory experience, and it's being rendered around us. I don't think anything is truly, quote unquote, real. That's my thought on it.
It's like when I'm playing my PlayStation, right? So I see the environment, the world that I'm playing in on the screen, but really none of that is actually there. As a matter of fact, nothing is even being rendered except for what I'm supposed to be looking at on the screen. Exactly. Otherwise, the PlayStation 5 would run out of RAM. It would run into processing.
Yeah, and it's where you're directing the joystick.
Right.
So if you direct the joystick left, it's going to render left. If you direct it right, it's going to render it right.
Right. So like quantum physicists have brought this up, that reality is there because you're observing it. To me, it's like, okay, well, that's exactly what my PlayStation does. Yep. It renders what I'm looking at as real on my screen
in the moment.
It seems to be 3D. You can put a VR set on, and then everything kind of looks even more real. Whatever. But in fact, it's just a illusion of reality. It's just digital information that is being transmitted to your eyes so that you can, in human form, it looks like an environment to you. And I think the whole world is like that. It's the whole universe. It's just a holographic projection. And the cube thing is everywhere.
It is.
For crying out loud, they give people basically a cube hat to put on their head when they've completed their brainwashing program in college.
Yeah. And high school.
In high school, in high school. Here's your box. We put your brain in a box, so that you can't think for yourself. Congratulations, here's your diploma.
Yep. And then just keep following orders, keep doing what you're told, and just to reiterate, I don't think we're on some spinning ball. I just think, I think both are wrong, and the reason why they're both wrong is because it's, when you really boil it down to it, it's like, again, it's a rendered holographic type experience. And so that's where I think the disconnect is between round, flat, and everything else. Like, I just think it's, I don't believe we're spinning or anything like that, but I think it's a total joke where that's all led to. But as far as, I don't lose sleep over it at night. Let's put it that way.
Right. Yeah. It doesn't matter to me. But what matters to me is that we have like this, the reality is multifaceted. And it is kind of like changing the channel. Like you when you're focused here in the human body, you're here. When you get out of the body, you're somewhere else. But then you also have this freedom to go wherever you think you want to go to. You're not limited by any restrictions, best I can tell. But so that's the whole thing. Cognitive dissonance is the most horrible mind prison. Once that programming gets into your head, I could not believe, just going back, I could not believe that I had not read what was literally the words I was reading.
Crazy.
Yeah. I mean, to me, that's the most incredible thing. It's the most incredible thing. And then when you realize like there's other things involved with human behavior, like the backfire effect, which I saw personally in my life, but I didn't know what it was at the time. It's when people, I had actually one experience many years ago before I ever got into this stuff. And it was funny because the backfire effect is a psychological term coined by a I forget what the name was, the guy. They created like a fake newspaper where they put in information, but it looked like the real newspaper, and the information was false. And then it was an experiment they were running back in the 50s or something, and then the psychologists would then correct the information. And they were, I forget what the experiment's purpose was, like to see how long it would take, like a retraction in the news to take effect or something. It was like something simple, But what they found out was shocking to them. They found out that people that get confronted with this, if they take something information, they think it's true, and then you give them the correct information, which now shows them that it's false. This is even worse than cognitive dissonance. The people that react this way actually double down on the false information. They reinforce it in themselves. And the psychologists coined this term, the backfire effect, where you give somebody the truth and they double down on the lie. Now, they don't have any explanation, of course, as to why this happens. I do. I think it's because of the human design. Design.
I'm with you. And the interesting thing is, like, the news and the whole propaganda outfit that's out there, they bank on you finding like, just a lot of people just read headlines. Like, so if there's an article out there or even a video, and someone doesn't even click the video, but say it's coming from a quote unquote trusted source, or it maybe even a half-assed source, if they see the title, like in 200 characters or less, 150 characters or less, whatever it is, the damage is done. Like, they've already got their mind made up based on that headline. And that's just like a small amount of information. And they say that most people, even though there may be that article with whether it's salacious, false, true, headline, doesn't matter what it is, they'll click it, or they won't. Most of the time they won't click it, but that headline will be nestled in the back of their head as fact.
Right.
As fact. And then if they go later on and revise that headline or revise that article and say, oh, well, there was something I read the other day. Damn, man, I wish I sent it to you. But I don't even remember what the topic was, but there was some article I ran across, and they said, I think it was something to do with, I don't want to say it because I don't really know. But anyways, they said that these 2 people or 3 people were present for something, and they weren't even there. But the article had been out for almost 2 weeks, and they did a follow-up article after all of that information had spread that these individuals were present for something when they weren't, like a crime or something like that. And then, and so then, like, no, they weren't there. It's like, well, that article was allowed to thrive for over 2 weeks, saying that innocent parties were present for a crime that, yes, was committed, but they were not involved, not even present. And yet it wasn't, Dan, think about it. It wasn't one person. It wasn't 2 people. It was 3 people that they were claiming were present for a crime that they weren't even there for. So it's not like they screwed up just like, oh, like this person was rumored to be there. No, they flat out said 3 people were present for a crime that was committed when in fact they weren't even there in the first place. So their names were thrown through the mud and destroyed for a period of 2 weeks. And guess what? Most people are not going to go and look for this follow-up article. They're going to have a preconceived idea about how these people acted, what they did, whatever the crime was, and they're guilty in their mind. So those names are forever like etched in the majority of people's minds who have run across the original article, not the follow-up articles. Most people are not going to follow up and do fact checking or correct things, just like a lot of these papers, these supposed trusted sources do, where they'll post something, slander somebody, and then lo and behold, they'll do like an editorial review or something later on, like weeks, months, years later, and it'll be like in the back of the newspaper in the smallest print possible.
Yeah. So
I mean, it's just sick. It's sick.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's the whole thing. The experiment with the backfire effect shows that retractions don't work because you actually double down on the original lie, which is really bizarre. But I actually experienced this before I knew what it was with somebody years ago. As you know, I'm a car. I like cars, and we could go into the disaster. It's going to come out in 2026 if you want to a little bit.
Yeah, you know what you want? Before we get into that, we can take a break. But you want to finish any final thoughts before we go to that?
No, I think we've covered all this, and then we can go into some off-topic stuff.
Okay, how are you doing on energy? You all right?
Yeah, I'm doing. Believe me, I'm making strides to recovery, and I've been doing everything the physical therapist suggested I do. I've been eating right. I haven't weighed this low of weight since I was 19 years old.
Yeah, man, you're looking good in that picture, man. Looking like
thanks.
I mean, especially compared to the hospital. Good Lord.
Yeah. Yes. So, all right.
All right,
Yeah,
brother. So, we'll take 5. Yeah, any final thoughts before we go into the break?
No, we'll pick it up in a little bit.
All right, so we'll be back in 5 minutes, my friends. Take care. And I did leave Dan's donation link. Of course, never expected, always appreciated, but it's available on YouTube, Odyssey, and Rumble. Feel free to show him a little love if you'd like, and while he's in his recovery phase. And also, don't forget to go to his website, overwatchproject.com, and he's also available on YouTube and Odyssey. And I think he's going to open up a Rumble account soon too, right, Dan?
I have one, but I just haven't did anything with it yet.
Yeah, I got to help you get that synced up. We'll get you going over there.
Okay,
all right,
thanks.
We'll be right back, my friends. Thank you. Thanks, Dan. See you soon.
Yep. All right.
So just as a reminder, this channel is for educational or perhaps entertainment purposes only, whichever the law would prefer. Want to welcome Dan back to the channel, and thanks for hanging in on the break, everybody. It's good to have you. You can check out Dan at overwatchproject.com, Overwatch channel on YouTube, Overwatch Project on Odyssey. All right, so where were we?
Well, we're going into a little bit off topic here, but first I wanted to tell everybody a little story about the backfire effect. And the first time I really encountered it, which had to do kind of like with a news story. So, as you know, I'm kind of into cars. I've been into cars since I was young. I have a fascinating, not necessarily like race cars anymore or anything like that, but more like, what's good to drive, what's not good to drive, what's good quality, that type of stuff. And back in the 80s, there was a car that Suzuki brought into the United States called the Samurai. Do you remember that?
Yeah, we were having a conversation about that.
Yeah, right. Suzuki Samurai was sold in the U.S. Oh, it's actually the Suzuki Jimny everywhere else in the world, except for like Australia, where they call it the Sierra, and I think Canada had a different name also. But the vehicle is basically like a Jeep type vehicle, and it was made in Japan since 1970, and in 1985 they imported it under the name Samurai into the United States. It quickly became a very popular vehicle because it was really, really good quality, and it was a simple vehicle that just worked, and its 4x4 system was really effective. So in snow, off-roading, because of its light footprint, it was able to, do really well in off-road or all kinds of situations. And these things were being bought up left and right. So by 1987, they were outselling Jeeps 2-1 in America. Well, you could infer wherever you want, but in 1988, Consumer Reports did a story about the Samurai, basically saying that the thing was a death trap. They would roll over and you'd die in this thing. It was absolutely too dangerous to be on American roads. But the reality was that it was apparently no more dangerous, maybe even less dangerous than other vehicles. So in I think 1995 or 96, Suzuki finally pulled the Samurai and they replaced it with the Sidekick. And I'm just going off by memory of the stuff that happened, but essentially Suzuki filed a lawsuit against the parent company of Consumer Reports. And it was in the 90s that I became aware that what I had believed to be true in the 80s was false. What had come out was they had some kind of mutual settlement. I think the lawsuit was finally settled in like 2004. And at some point I became aware of how I've been
What was the amount? Do you remember? Because the amount I remember you told me was pathetic, considering the amount of damage they did.
Yeah, Suzuki sued for like $60 million, but it was
settled. That's a joke.
Yeah. But it was settled out of court, so we don't know.
So that means it's below 60. Because if they were seeking damages of 60, the chance of them settling over that amount is probably close to 0.
Right. What they ended up was getting an apology from Consumer Reports and a retraction. That the vehicle that Suzuki makes safe vehicles, which they did. I owned Suzuki vehicles when they were being sold here in America. I had I went through 2 Grand Vitaras, which were amazing vehicles. The thing was that there was this guy I used to work with, and he was a Consumer Reports junkie, right? He was just always had the magazine, the latest issue with him.
My father was the same way, man.
Right. So, a lot of people were, especially back in the 90s.
Then,
yeah, 90s and 2000. You won't buy a dishwasher, you go to Consumer Reports.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. Now, I don't, obviously I don't know what, I do know that if you go on YouTube and you type in Consumer Reports Suzuki Samurai, you get all these, including a Suzuki made, somebody posted it. It's an internal Suzuki film exposing what went down. And there's some little mini documentaries about it people have made over the years. But essentially what appears to have happened, based on my interpretation and what I was shown and what I was reading, is that the vehicle was not tipping over for Consumer Reports. And so they manipulated their course, shortened the cone distances, or did something to the course. And in fact, in one of the behind the scenes or raw videos, you can hear the frustration of the people doing the test that they cannot get this vehicle to flip. They weren't trying to flip it. It had like these safety arms. They were just trying to tip it so that when it would go into a slalom course, 2 of the wheels would come off the ground. And they had like these beamed metal arms with wheels on them so the vehicle wouldn't flip over with the driver inside. But anyway, during this testing process, and I may be getting this number wrong, I think it took them 47 tries to get the wheels off the ground with a modified course designed to make it harder for the vehicle.
And it's all on video, right?
It's all on video. You can find the videos on YouTube to watch them, yeah. Just type in, matter of fact, let me see if I just do a search here. If I type in on YouTube, Consumer Reports Suzuki Samurai, one of the videos is going to be Suzuki's own internal video, which comes up, Suzuki. Let me just check this. So anyway, let's see here, search results. Yeah, the very first video is Suzuki versus Consumer Reports. It's a 15-minute video. Then the second video, Suzuki Samurai, how fake news killed Suzuki. It's got a guy doing a little impromptu documentary about the whole thing. So what ended up happening was they had some kind of mutual agreement. I think Suzuki said that Consumer Reports does good work, and Consumer Reports said that Suzuki makes safe vehicles, and they had some kind of settlement that we're not privy to know what it was. Besides, that, so something, whatever it was settled out of court. So the thing is that this guy I work with, I pointed this out to him, and I said, now that it's out that Consumer Reports apparently, what it appears to be is they manipulated test results to intentionally fail a vehicle that they didn't like for whatever reason. Then how can you? I mean, as in my line of work that I was in that time, it was common if you went into court to get the instruction that if a witness is caught lying once about anything, that you can then consider any other thing that they said as a lie. Like you can no longer trust the witness. That's just a common jury instruction that they give. So I basically was making the same argument. I said, if you now know that they can manipulate a test or skew a test, how can you trust any of the things they say in the magazine? How do you trust it?
And that magazine was like the holy grail of trustworthiness, allegedly.
Yeah, allegedly, yeah. So
back in the day.
Yeah. So I didn't know about this backfire effect, but I watched it happen. He became angry and hyper defensive of Consumer Reports, the magazine. And at the time, I'm like, logic. If you tell people facts and logic, then people have to accept your. I was really kind of dumb back then. Yeah.
But given the profession that you were both in, you would think that something like that would be over, there'd be like an override there or something, but there wasn't.
No, there was.
You both were in law enforcement.
Yes. And so I expect, but of course now looking back at it now I understand exactly what was going on. It was this classic response that when people have this thing, they've accepted this premise is true. Consumer Reports is the ultimate guide to what is good and bad in products. That is true. Therefore, anything that contradicts that must be false, is false. So I'm basically telling him, hey, and he couldn't argue with the fact that the whole thing had unraveled and there was this court settlement or this out of court settlement, and that there was videos available about how they did it. I mean, I think there's a scene or a clip where the one guy is frustrated, like yelling at the driver, if you can't get it to tip over, I'll do it myself. Now, normally, this killed the Suzuki Samurai in the U.S. The sales after 88 declined, and by 1995, they pulled it off the market in the U.S. It is still sold in 194 countries around the world. This vehicle sells everywhere. It is extremely popular.
And extremely unsafe.
Right. Right. And there is a market for used Samurais where they are incredibly overpriced right now for some reason. If you can find one that, is even in horrible shape, they want like $5,000 for it. So the vehicle actually is quite valuable as even today. I mean, you can basically buy every single part in the U.S. There's aftermarket parts to replace dashboards, window, stick shift knobs, all that stuff. I mean, bumpers, hard tops, whatever you need. They still are manufacturing it, and the vehicle hasn't been on American roads brand new since 1995. But it has a super strong fan following. People know how these vehicles are in real life. But in 88, when that came out, I knew a guy who had a Samurai And I fell right in with the dumbasses out there that just believe whatever they were told. So I told him, you should get rid of that death trap. And he told me he didn't believe it. And I couldn't understand why. I said, why? It was in Consumer Reports. It must, like, I'm thinking it must be true. That's how dumb I was back then.
I mean, there's a lot of dumb stuff we used to believe and buy into back in the day. I mean,
Yeah,
it just shows the evolution process, right? Like how I mean, again, I think it really goes to self-awareness and being able to see through the BS that the system's selling us on the most mundane, stupid level, or one, or like a mid-level where it could affect you, like in the wallet, like a car. I mean, a car is a freaking big expense. I mean, that's not a joke. I mean, people, cars, homes, areas you may choose to live in, grocery stores that you choose to go to. Some may be more expensive than others. There are just like certain things that can affect your life over the long term, and cars are definitely one of those. The last thing you want to do is end up with a freaking lemon or a shit box that is going to cause you nothing but problems, even if you get it brand new. I mean, like and so for them to go and post reports that it's like a death trap, that's crazy. I think I remember there. I remember in the 90s or like early 2000s or something, there was which car was it? Like maybe like the RAV4 or something like that. And I'm not even saying that's exactly what the car was, but there was a couple, like two models out there that were known for tipping over and that they were death traps and stuff like that. But it was just common knowledge. Like everybody knew it. But where did that knowledge come from? Was it even true? I don't know. I don't care, but I didn't buy one because at the time I was well indoctrinated, and regardless of whether it was true or not, I believe the narrative that the magazines and newspapers and my friends and family were selling me. And I just said, okay, I'm not going to buy a RAV4, or I'm not going to, not like I would ever be caught in one of those goddamn things anyways. But the point is, it's like, it's easy for things like that to spread.
Sure. Now so the whole thing is like you're you have to also wonder. Suzuki Samurai cost brand new back then in the 80s, 6, 7, maybe tops out at $8,000. So it was selling for less than the Jeep, and it started to outsell the Jeep 2-to-1 in sales. Now, was there some kind of shenanigans that went on to try to kill this vehicle off because it was a threat? I don't know. But it's something that you could consider as a possibility. Today, since Suzuki pulled out of America, I drive Mitsubishis. Again, a car company that is like an underdog here in America. I don't know why. They make really great vehicles, and if you shop around for the dealerships, some of these dealers, like I bought one. My 2019 was I had to drive hundreds of miles to get it, but there was a dealer in Lakeland that had they had a $26,000 sticker price was $26,000 on an Outlander Sport, and I called him up on the phone to make sure, because the vehicle had been sitting there for a while. It had all-wheel, 4-wheel drive. It had, the XM radio, Android Auto, all this stuff, and heated seats even. And it was like, it said 17,000. So I called him up and said, is this some kind of, gimmick or what? And they're like, nope, if you come here, that's the price. So I drove. I had a Volkswagen at the time. I wasn't happy with it. I wanted to get rid of it. Traded that in for the Mitsubishi. It was the second time I've owned a Mitsubishi, and it was really great, but it sustained body damage from rocks and stuff. So one day I'm at the dealership getting it serviced, and they had a new 2022 with less stuff in it that would track you. I couldn't believe it, but my car now doesn't have Android Auto. It doesn't have XM radio. It just has AM, FM. It was a lower ES model, but it still had all the other good stuff, all-wheel, four-wheel drive, everything. And I managed to trade it in with no money down. They just gave me a new vehicle. I just kind of like reset the payments back to 5 years, and got this new vehicle, which I love. The weird thing is that the older vehicle, when I was in it, and this is going to get to what they're doing in 2026. I was in the menu system, and I'm kind of like, I'm into computers. I used to work even at Geek Squad for a while, so I'm into all this tech stuff. I was drilling down into the secret menus and menus in the radio, and I found the settings said GPS, and I didn't even know this thing was doing that because it doesn't have any internal navigation. It uses Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. I clicked that, and the damn thing on my screen in my car showed me my longitude and latitude, my exact location on the planet, and it showed me my location on Earth. So I was like, wow, this is really weird. I didn't know this thing was doing that. It's probably broadcasting it somewhere. There is a website, if anybody is interested, privacy and the number 4 cars, privacy4cars.com. You can put in your VIN number, and it generally works well, decently with most VIN numbers, but it will show you what your car is doing to track you or data mine you. And when you get into these cars that have like these telemetry systems with things that can help you if you get into an accident, you'll find out that they are sending everything back to the manufacturer, and that those manufacturers have agreements with the government. And in 2026, the new infrastructure bill that was just passed, and this applies to the U.S., so if there's people listening and they don't live in the U.S., I don't know what's going on in your countries, but they're going to make it mandatory that your car take control of you, of your vehicle away from you if the car's computer believes you're impaired in any way. And that there'll be some kind of sensor in there to try to sense if you're under the influence of alcohol, which I watched a lawyer had a great video about this. He brought up so many points. The law is written in a very vague manner, and the things that he brought up was like one of these systems actually can monitor alcohol content from your hands. Now, what if you just get into your car and you use some hand sanitizer? Then you grip your steering wheel. Now the car thinks you're drunk, and then it won't let you drive anywhere, but you're not drunk. Or a passenger gets in the car and you're designated driver. There was nothing written in these things and how this system was going to work. But it also has some kind of kill switch, which may be used to like just turn off your car if they want to. So basically, if you have half a brain, you can't buy any car 2026 and forward. You'd have to go back and buy used vehicles for your cars. I was shocked. Mitsubishi has the least amount of tracking in a lot of these models that include all the functional features that you want without they still have cars that you could just have like an AM FM radio with Bluetooth, and that's it. And if you don't hook anything up to the car, it doesn't know anything about you. So that's what's going on with that. That's kind of scary to me.
Yeah.
This whole the car can take control, or it actually says in there like the car can stop if it deems that you're not safe to drive. So where is it going to stop? Right in the middle of the highway? Is it going to be able to pull over their shoulder? What kind of AI do they have to put in these vehicles? what happens when it doesn't work right?
No.
There was a thing in the news the other day where some EV vehicle owners, electric vehicle owners, found out that they were stranded because their electric vehicle had a software update, and when it didn't install properly, the entire car was immobilized. That was just in the
Wow.
news like a
No,
week ago. They had like
that's crazy.
they had like the blue screen of death. It said call, a customer service for assistance. But basically that's it. So you get in your car, has a software update, you click update, then you want to go to work, and then the screen basically says the blue screen of death come up and says update not successfully installed. Call customer service. Now your car won't start. It can't do anything. That's it. You're locked out now.
Yeah, that sounds great. What a future.
Yeah, I remember the good old days where it was a big deal if your carburetor was frozen and you had to get that alcohol spray to
Oh
spray
God, yes, yep.
before fuel injected cars. Yeah, I mean, my first car
Making me
had
feel
a
old.
carburetor. Yeah.
Nah.
And hey, some of that technology, I mean, some these cars, there's a lot of classic car dealerships all over the United States. Plus, as I was telling you the other day, Mark, there's a huge market now for. Apparently, you can legally import and drive, and unless it's one of those mini delivery trucks, you can drive it anywhere on the highway. Japanese imported cars, as long as they're 25 years or older. So if you want to buy like a 1997 Japanese vehicle, you can have it imported into the country. A lot of them are cheaper to buy than current, like a used car in America from the same era. And they do, of course, you have to drive on the right side of the car because the steering wheel's on the opposite side than here. But there's a lot of videos on YouTube about that too. And it's definitely an option because you can get some really neat SUVs and stuff like that from Japanese imports. And, it's an option. They do take good care of their cars there. So, that's just stuff to keep in mind because I'm not going to buy a car that basically I'm buying to own, right? And then have the car take control of me.
Yeah, it's a total joke.
Right. And then I'm like, no, I don't think so. I'm not going to have a car control me. And what if it's wrong? What if it makes a mistake? I mean,
Yeah.
we've seen these mistakes that these autonomous vehicles make. There's some YouTube
Yeah, but remember,
videos.
they're not autonomous. They're, it's like, oh, yeah, you have autopilot, but you don't.
You don't. No. Right.
The amount of mind fuckery going on with that is just insane. And then the lack of accountability on top of it. It's like, oh, yeah,
Right.
no, we told you this, we told you that. But, I mean, for some reason, how they get away with that legally, well, we know how they get away with it legally, but it's a joke. It's a total joke.
Sure, I know some people that have some of these. I don't. My Mitsubishi requires me to drive the car. That's why I love it. Gas mileage I get is great. My Outlander Sport gets about, I say, honestly, constantly at least 27 miles a gallon. It has front wheel drive. You can switch it to all wheel drive or 4-wheel drive lock with the push of a button. It's so seamless. There's no like rattles or noises or anything. They give you a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty. That's because they know the powertrain's not going to break. Otherwise, they wouldn't give you that warranty. They give you a bumper to bumper or 5 years, 60,000. A lot of the dealerships will simply add on top of that warranty more warranties for free when you buy these. And yet, Americans don't seem to be buying them. Sales at Mitsubishi are constantly low, and somehow they get like this. I don't know what's wrong with people. I don't know I think of things in a more logical way. Like, hey, that's the best car, and this company cares about making good cars. I'm going to buy from them. when I bought my Suzukis, I was really happy with them. I missed that I didn't buy the Samurai when it came out. That I had bought the Lies. I should have bought that car. It would be worth more now than when I paid for it when I bought it if I still had it.
Yeah, and that, you know how that's like ridiculously rare. Like we were talking about this the other night. Like cars are like the worst investment that human beings can make. I mean, the last thing you want to do is dump a shit ton of money into a car, because about 95% of the time they are losing value the second they leave the lot. There's no benefit to putting a ton of money into a car unless it's the classic, unless there's some sort of value attached to it, and it's like limited or limited edition or really old or high in demand or something like that. But other than that, there's just they're some of the worst things that humanity is like basically pigeonholed into investing in, because they need to get to work, they need to get to the grocery store, they need to bring their children to school and pick them up from their athletics and all that stuff. I mean, on and on and on.
Yeah. Matter of
It's
fact,
just one of those investments we're like completely cornered into getting.
Right. I just happened to be looked over at the comment feed. Somebody mentioned that the Suzuki still sells the same thing as a Samurai everywhere else in 194 other countries. It's called the Jimny. It was called the Jimny before they brought it into the United States, but they rebranded it as Samurai because marketing or whatever. I guess it was a better name for the American market. But the vehicles have, even the brand new 2024s still look a lot like, they still have that same look as the original 1970. Well, in 1985, it's funny because in 1985 you could have bought one of these things for about $6,000, and you can find a trashed one with really like just people have done stupid shit to them, like put stupid lift kits on them, cut the roof open to put a sunroof. I mean, just kind of mutilated the freaking car. Instead, just leaving it alone like Suzuki made it, which was perfect, just like they made it. Didn't have to tamper with anything. And a lot of these things, you got to wonder, if somebody had a rollover accident, was it because they put a lift kit on it? Because when you put a lift kit on a 4x4, you completely alter the center of gravity of the vehicle. And the manufacturer didn't make it that way. Mm. So now if you have a lift kit on the vehicle and your center of gravity's moved, can the thing now flip over easier? Sure. Consumer Reports wasn't doing a test on a lifted vehicle. They were doing on a standard vehicle that you buy off the lot, which is why they couldn't flip it easily. And then the thing is that you can find ones now, they're completely trashed vehicles. They've been mutilated. They've been lift kitted. They've had, things are broken, faded, everything. And they want $15,000.
Damn.
I've seen them when they're in mint condition, which some people have garage kept these things since the 80s. When they're in mint condition, some people are asking $18,000, $24,000, $30,000 for these things.
Damn.
And they're way overpriced now. Way overpriced. You could have bought one of these things 4 years ago for about $2,600 used.
When I was really young and dumb and kind of in my hippie phase, I bought a 59 VW panel bus, and I loved it. But the beauty of it was that it was so simple to repair. I am not a car guy by any means. I'm not some mechanic. I have very minimal knowledge when it comes to any of this stuff. But it was so easy to repair. It's not even funny. But at the same time, it was like I just always had the upkeep with it. It didn't have air conditioning, and shit like that. Like, and the heat was kind of pathetic. I mean, I threw like a multi-changer CD deck in it, a nice little mini, nothing fancy, but a nice, decent stereo system in it, and it was nice to take on the road and stuff like that. But, you really gotta, like, keeping up with those things are difficult, but it had, when you talk about bare bones as far as technology, it was about as minimal as it gets. But eventually I just had to get rid of it.
Yeah. And, it's a shame because I'm sure if you had that band now, it'd probably be worth a ton of money.
It probably would be. It probably would be. I mean, like, it was in incredible condition. I mean, what I paid for it versus probably what it's worth now. I mean, I'm sure I probably could have doubled or tripled my money easily.
Yeah, sure, absolutely, yes. Because Samurai had the same thing. You could literally see the oil filter. You could reach down with your hand.
Yeah, mine too. It was right there.
They only came in 5-speed manual. They didn't have any other options. Back then.
Oh yeah, the panel bus I had was it was it was no power steering, all manual. it was like, I had this big ass, like, almost like a school bus wheel, and no power steering. So, like, you had to think before you would turn, and make sure that you had enough clearance and all that shit. And make sure you had enough pressure on it.
Yeah, you needed skill to drive. Back in the 80s, you had to know how to drive. Not so much anymore. Computers are kind of guiding you. If you leave your lane, they tell you, or they straighten you out. Back in the 80s, there wasn't even any anti-lock brakes. You had to learn how to pump the brakes. You had to pump the brakes.
I remember pumping them in the snow, man. The snow and the sleet and all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Running in the snowbanks.
Yep. My 85 Mustang was rear-wheel drive. And it had 210 horsepower back then in the 80s. 85, that was a lot. They would always compare it to the Camaro, and it always beat it by like half a second. It's just a little bit quicker. But I drove that thing in the north in snow. You ever try to drive a real drive sports car in snow?
No, and I don't want to.
It was a challenge. There's no anti-lock brakes, no traction control. And
damn.
and the car was light on the ass end. It was light on the ass end. And if the locking differential was doing whatever, if you accelerated too quick, the car's tail would start moving, left or right. It would start fishtailing. It was a challenge to get anywhere, and somehow I managed to go places and not get into any accidents.
That's funny. Like, I remember having the bus and putting bricks in the back of it to kind of weight it down so it would stay on the snow and the ice better.
Yeah. One day I used to work in a mall, and the maintenance guy, it was snowing. And I said, man, how am I going to? It was like really slick. It was a really slick snowfall. And I want to go home. And he said, I'll help you out, man. Pop your trunk or hatchback open. So I opened up the hatchback, and he put these like 150 pounds of sandbags in the back of my trunk to push down the ass end to try to get me home. And it worked. It did help out a lot. But
it's amazing what can be done with that. Like, those are just like tricks of living in those types of weather situations, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, now there's traction control, so the car is not going to go anywhere, because if it can't get any traction, the computer will start to tinker with the wheel rotations. Kind of like the reverse of anti-lock brakes.
Nah, I loved Volkswagen buses. I was obsessed with them. They were.
You should have made it look like the Scooby-Doo machine.
Yeah, if I showed it, I'll pop up pictures of what it looked like. It was kind of like kind of like, well, it was much better condition. It was actually like this right here, like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was like this, but it was it was ridiculous. I wish I had pictures of it, but I mean, it was restored very, very like insanely well. But I mean, like, this is what I liked about it. Like, at the time, I was traveling the country a lot, and I was like, okay, I want to be able to have something I could sleep in and relax and stuff like that without having to pay, you know, well, at the time, like $100 a night at Motel 6 or something like that. So it worked out. It worked out, like, temporarily, but I grew older and I got sick of it. But
sure.
be curious what I mean. It was kind of actually, it was like renovated like this. We had a table, we had fold down beds, we had the speaker system. Actually, this is a hell of a comparison. We had speaker system on the bottom, had a 5 or 10 CD disc tray. I mean, it was decked out for the time in a modern way. But yeah, it's I don't know. It's just it was when I was young and dumb. So
Yeah, and somebody wrote. I'm sorry, folks, if I missed all your comments tonight, but I was, just,
going with the flow, man.
Going with the flow. But somebody wrote that he's very upset with the vehicle, and the vehicle industry is just doing what they have to stay in business. They're ordered to do these things. And they do. There is a YouTube series called "The Unintended Consequences." It's from Reason Magazine. There's a whole thing in there about cars, unintended consequences. So the cafe stand. And have you noticed that mostly every car today on the road is an SUV?
Yeah, they're all over the place.
They're all over the place. The reason for that is because the government tards made legislation, I think in the late 70s, with these, what they call these cafe standards. And so they require automobiles to have these ridiculous standards. So our car companies said, we can't make cars that can do all this stuff. We can make maybe one model that can do this stuff. It has to be really tiny. And, like Mitsubishi only sells one car in America. It's the Mitsubishi Mirage. And they sell it here because it has a 3-cylinder engine and it can give you 40 to 50 miles a gallon. So it exceeds all the cafe standards.
That's crazy.
Everything else they sell here is an SUV or crossover. And the reason is because if you build an SUV or a crossover, they are considered trucks and they do not have to follow the cafe standards. So the reason you see cars have disappeared is because the government mandated shit the car companies don't want to build and nobody would want to buy. So, except, there's a niche out there for small fuel efficient cars, of course. I mean, if I was in the market for something that gave me great fuel efficiency, I would buy a Mirage because of you can get the car for $15,000 today. Brand new, 2024 model.
Damn. So that right there. Keep that in mind, everybody. Anyone who's listening.
Yeah,
who lives in the States. I mean, like, because cars get ridiculous. Like, but if you need something to get around town, get to your work, and that's fuel efficient, that's your answer. You want to say that again? Which model was that, Dan?
It's the Mitsubishi Mirage. They have two models. One is a hatchback. One is one with a trunk. And they get, no joke, you will easily get 40 miles a gallon in this thing. Easily.
I mean, like, that's valuable information. It really is. That's
right.
Really valuable information.
Yeah, the car still has, despite, this, it still has 6.5 inches of ground clearance. My Outlander Sport has 8.5 inches, but that's because it has 4-wheel drive and you can drive the thing anywhere, really. I mean, it's not a Jeep Wrangler. It's not going to go off trail or anything, but you can easily get around. And I put the all-wheel drive automatic on. The Mirage has front-wheel drive only, but they come loaded. Even if you buy the base model, you have to again go dealer shopping because the window sticker price will be like $18,000 or $19,000. but there are Mitsubishi dealers out there. If you find one, they have these internet specials, and they will sell you that car for $14,000.
Damn.
They,
I
they,
mean, like, right? I mean, Christ. I mean, I personally like trucks, but, I spent almost double that.
yeah, right,
Yeah.
exactly. So you can buy a brand new car for very little money in today's standards. And I know that people, oh, it's a 3-cylinder engine. Well, if you look online, if you look on YouTube, the car has a good fan base. There's a lot of people that reviewed these cars. There's one guy's video I saw. He had 150,000 miles on it. He liked it so much he went and bought another one. But guess what? Mitsubishi said that by 2025, and I think this has to do with the 2026 garbage, they are going to discontinue that car in the United States.
What a surprise.
And I think it's because, well, they can't afford to sell you a car for under $20,000 with all this added garbage they're going to have to put in the cars now. Yep. Alcohol testing, AI controls. So if you're going to buy the car, you got until 2025 to get one. Otherwise,
2025 or 2026?
2026 is when the new standards take effect.
Okay.
So Mitsubishi saying that in 2025 they're going to discontinue the Mirage in the United States means to me that the reason they're discontinuing it is because they can't meet the 2026 standards in that car.
Okay.
It won't be.
Yeah, they can't be affordable for them to manufacture it, send it, sell it, and actually still pull a profit.
Right. It's already a small profit margin car anyway. They don't make a lot of profit on the Mirage. Okay. They make profits on their big Outlanders. They're $40,000 vehicles.
Sydney says right here, Mitsubishi Mirage is discontinued in Australia already.
Really?
That's what she's saying. I don't know. You have to look it up. But
well, it could be. It could be.
Yeah, I don't know when did that happen, Sydney? Any idea? Just be curious. But yeah, I mean, finding a vehicle that is affordable and gives you good gas mileage and isn't going to, shut itself off is kind of important.
Yeah. Now, Sydney, if you can, do they have these mandates coming for Australia like they do for the United States? Where they're going to have the cars with kill switches so they can turn off your car remotely?
Sydney says she has no idea, but they're only selling old models right now.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Well,
I want to thank Knack for the very kind super chat. Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
So, wow, that's very fascinating. Of course, Australia has its own problems.
Yeah, especially when we saw that happen a few years ago with the reach that they took.
Yeah, overreach.
Not Overwatch, overreach.
Yeah, it was overreach, not Overwatch. In New Zealand also. I feel really bad because I've always wanted to go there. I used to think these are places I wanted to go. Canada was been there a couple times, many years ago. And it's also a shame what's happened there.
Oh, what's happened in Canada is disgusting.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's. I got a funny story about Canada. There's a buddy of mine, and he lives up there, in Calgary, I think it is, and he went. It's kind of a little unrelated, but just a funny story. So he, the Canadians have their hockey teams, the Calgary Flames or something like that. So he goes to visit France. This was maybe about like 4 or 5 years ago. He goes to visit France and shows up. He's not wearing anything Canadian, right? And people are the French are treating him like shit. Like they're just rude and obnoxious and stuff like that. And I've heard this stuff in the past, and it's like, whatever's happening, who knows? But I mean, there's a pretty regular message that seems to indicate that, the French are not fond of Americans. All right. But he was
Yeah,
Canadian.
right.
Okay. But they thought he was American. And so they were just rude and nasty to him. And then he said the next day he put on because he was like, oh, they're treating me like shit. So I'm going to put on the Flames jersey. He puts on the Flames jersey and everyone's treating him like, oh, welcome, glad to have you, great to see you.
Isn't that
like
simple?
everything changed all because of the shirt he was wearing.
Yeah, I can relate to that story. I went to my parents are from Italy. I can speak Italian, but I speak it with a Venetian dialect, with a northern dialect, like from Trieste, Venice, all that
Sure.
area. And when I was in Italy, when I went there as a child a couple times, and as a teenager, and I was in Venice, and of course they assume they can tell from your clothing that you're American.
Instantly.
Yeah, and I was looking at something in one of the little kiosks in the square where I was going to buy something, souvenir or something, and the guy is gouging the prices, right? And I just started talking to him because we speak the same dialect, and he became so confused because I'm speaking like a local, but I'm dressed like an American tourist. He did not know what to do, so he immediately lowered all the prices. Like he wasn't haggling anymore for the higher prices because he was just totally confused. Like, why does
Big
he look like
sale
an
all of a
American?
sudden.
Yeah, he looks like an American, but no, he's one of us. I always remember that. It was like, because I could talk to anybody there because I'm speaking their dialect. If I was in like Sicily and I spoke my Italian, nobody understand. I can't understand when they talk. I don't
Sure.
understand the words they're saying. There's like a proper Italian, which all like regular Italians can speak, but I can't. I can understand it, but I have a hard time speaking it because my dialect uses different words for things.
Sure.
And give me an example. If you're looking for a bathroom and you're in Venice, Italy, you would say dove è cesso, which would be the bathroom. Where's the bathroom? But
Where's the shitter?
Yeah, cesso. It almost sounds like chess, like you're playing chess, but where's the way cesso? And then in proper Italian, it would be dove è il gabinetto. You would see that if you're talking to somebody in Rome and you say that Venice dialect, they're not going to have any idea what you're talking about. What's he looking for?
How you feeling over there? You all right?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna be calling it.
Yeah, we had a nice discussion tonight. It's been enjoyable, and I want to kind of give you the floor for any closing thoughts that you might have. Anything you want to say to anybody? And
I really just appreciate all the positive thoughts people sent. I really do think that kind of stuff helps.
Well, we love you, brother. We love you.
Yeah,
we were worried about you.
Yeah, you didn't mention any details, obviously, for obvious reasons.
Not my position to do that, So,
but you mentioned that I was going through something difficult, and I did get a lot of messages on my YouTube thing. I hope you're doing well, and when I put out the explanation, and tonight I hope we've covered everything with that.
Yeah,
and so
I think we did. Yeah,
but I am doing much better. And I hope to get rid of this defibrillator next week, I hope, because it is very difficult to sleep with a defibrillator attached to your body.
Yeah, that's got to be a nightmare.
Oh, yes.
I mean, I remember, dude, I felt so bad for you when you were at the hospital and couldn't and you're like, I just want to sleep my side. I wrestle back and forth, and like, it's just I get just the amount of suffering you were going through. It's just killed me, man. Just killed me.
Yeah, it was a lot. It
Yeah.
was also like to me it was also like proof that the human body is just really bad design. It's
Yeah, it's a
breaks
shit.
so
It's a
easy.
shit show.
It is. It's like it's like a lemon. You know,
Exactly. It's the
compared to
lemon.
a
It's the
car.
lemon report of the universe, the
Yeah, right.
multiverse.
So, but thanks everybody. I really am humbled and I can't stress enough how I appreciate the positive support and everything that everybody did, and my family and everybody else, and you, Mark. Thanks for your
Yeah.
support.
No problem, man. It was, I really appreciate you, your family, allowing me to kind of be there on the sidelines a little bit. And, yeah, I mean, it was, I'm just happy you made it out of it. And, I'm glad you're doing better. I mean, it was great to meet everybody. And, I have, nothing but the utmost respect for you and your family. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep. So thanks everybody. So I'm gonna close down the stream now
Okay.
for me here, and
Yep.
I just have to hit end stream on my
Yeah,
YouTube.
just gonna hit end stream. I'm gonna do the same, and I'll be over on the Truth and Gaming channel. Gonna be playing a little Witcher 3 just for some fun. So anyone who wants to join, the links in the chat. And don't forget to join Dan over at Overwatch channel on YouTube, Overwatch Project on Odyssey, and overwatchproject.com is his website. And if you are looking for further links, you can find those in the description. He also has if you'd like to support his channel, it's always appreciated but never expected. You can find those a Stripe link and a Buy Me a Coffee if you have that. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, Dan. And, I'm just glad you're doing better and look forward to having many more conversations in the future, my friend.
Yes. Thanks. This was a great podcast tonight. Thanks everybody. Bye
Thank you.
bye now.
All right.
Bye.
Take care,
Everybody.
everybody.
Bye.
We'll see you
Yep.
soon.
Bye.
Bye bye.